Hi, I was cleaning my basement and I came across a tote full of retro fishing tackle. So let's take a look at what's in the tote. Everything here is from the late 80s, early 90s when I lived to fish. Back then, I fished the Delaware River about 50 days a year, handful of days on the Manasquan River for trout, surf fishing in the ocean about 10 days, and largemouth bass in local ponds when time allowed. Pair of old Cabela's gloves, an old gator mask I would never stick on my face now. It's probably all moldy. Let's see. We have some owner hooks. I used to use these a lot for largemouth. Very sharp hooks. Some regular hooks. Little container of other kind of hooks. Nothing special. Okay, we have these spinners. Similar to what you'd use for largemouth bass, but half the size. Work great on the river for smallmouth when the weather was right. And we have some walleye jigs. I believe that's called walleyes only jig. Very effective on walleye and smallmouth bass. That's a regular walleye jig. And that's a foxy jig. I used them a lot. They were good for both smallmouth and walleyes. 3-inch Mr. Twister on an 1/8 ounce jig head. Very effective. My favorite bait. Some more walleye jigs. Different colors for different scenarios. These little bead jigs were nice too for panfish and small eyes. This is a good pickerel jig. More foxy jigs. And these are good panfish baits, these fuzzy things. Sometimes I'd use them on the river as well. Okay, we got a box of stuff. Let's see what we have here. Just some jig heads and worm weights. Some line weights. It looks like we have some worm weights here. Yeah, bullet weights. These jig spinners, you're going to see a lot of them in my tackle. Very effective bait. Can't even buy them anymore. I wouldn't even know where to buy them. I used to buy them at Gander Mountain back in the day. 30 years ago. I doubt they have them now because Gander Mountain just isn't the same as it used to be. The way these work is you put a 1/8 ounce jig head and a Mr. Twister on there. And this is a very effective bait, especially when the water temperature is like between 55 and 65. And I've used these both in pond fishing and in the river. Some more of these furry baits, tanfish baits. These rattle spot lures, these are newer. I don't think these are 30 years old. I think these are more like 15 years old. Trying to replicate an old lure that they used to make, and they're just not the same. But you'll see a lot of different variations of that throughout my tackle box. Foxy jigs, unopened. There's a walleyes only. That's a great little jig to have. More foxy jigs, different colors. More jig spinners. And these are tiny tube baits for 1/8 ounce jigs. And Mr. Twisters. You'll see a lot of them in here. My favorite bait. Rooster tail for trout fishing. stringer line. If you don't know what these are for taking fish hooks out of mouth. A lot of different plastic baits, 1-inch Mr. Twisters. A lot of rubber worms. Power growth from 30 years ago. Probably still works. And you have an assortment of bobbers. Yeah, we got another box of stuff. Old fishing line. Here we go. Old fly reel. Old Cabela's blue ribbon. I remember buying that and trying it out, and it was a disaster, but still have it. All these old fishing spools, I still have the reels for all these. Some old fishing line, what was popular back then. Brand new box there. Who knows what that is? And a lot of bass jigs, jig and pigs, spinners. A lot of it's brand new, never used. Here's that old spinner. Old saltwater reel or spinning reel, that is for the surf. Still in good shape. That'll get used again. Let's see what we have here. Painted jigs, 1/8 ounce, 1/16 ounce. I used to paint jigs in my spare time. And we have smallmouth lures. Okay. These spinners here, I use them at sometimes, mostly for pickerel and stuff. That's like a Zara spook. You could put in the weeds. That's a Rebel Wee caterpillar. That's a tiny torpedo. That's a saltwater spoon. This cicada, they're good for catching bait fish. And I cut myself. I'm going to need a tetanus shot after this. And we have a wee frog. Very effective when the time is right on the river. Midsummer. There's a larger version of a wee frog. And we got wee crawfish and wee cricket, grasshopper. Some more wees. Small crankbaits, very effective in the river. Get some more foxy jigs. Let's see what we have here. This looks like an empty box. Yes. Now there we go, some surf stuff. We have these hooks for catching sand sharks. The wire leader. Giant Mr. Twisters. These things work really good on striped bass. You put a 1 ounce jig head on it. And if you live near the ocean, you know what these are. These old-time fishing weights, 2 ounce and 1 ounce. And some big meaty hooks. We got a spoon there. Okay, some more smallmouth lures. You can see that's a full-size rattle spot, how big it is. Use that in ponds and stuff. Zara spook, those things are deadly. You could actually see the teeth marks on that. I use that in the ocean as well. And the Zara pooch, the tiny version of it. Great for smallmouth bass on the river. And we have a silver one too. Tiny little crankbait. Here's another tiny torpedo. That was a little bigger than the last one. These are poppers. We all know what that's good for. Some more rattle spots. And you can see a lot of different variations I have in different sizes. Sometimes the smaller the better. That there, the cotton cordell miniature minnow, that was the best bait ever made. They stopped making them at the end of the 80s. I have 2 left. I used to have about 20 of them. Would love to get a hold of some of those. Small crankbaits. And another version of the rattle spot. That there's a popular color right there. Probably the best color. See what some of these little things are. Okay, we got some line weights. I use that for trout fishing. What is this? It looks like something I would put in a fanny pack for shoreline fishing. Jigs. Right there, if you know, ever fish in the Delaware River, you know what that is. That's a shad dart. A lot of fun in mid-May. And that's a 1/4 ounce, I think, jig. Mr. Twisters. You can see more spinners, jig spinners. What do we got here? Looks like a mess. Hooks, spoons, spinners. And this looks like saltwater lures. Yeah, this is all for the surf, for blue fishing. When the time is right, those things are awesome. Some more shark hooks. Let's see what we have here. We got fishing weights, bullet weights, saltwater weights, and bobbers. And these are just more painted jig heads that I use on the river. Assortment of sizes and colors. And I believe this is plastic baits. A lot of different variations and colors. Rubber worms. I love using rubber worms in ponds. And that is my favorite 3-inch Mr. Twisters. Those are, I believe that's a flying lure. And more worms. And let's see. Let's finish this up. See what we got here. Oh, let's see. Those are those tadpole lures that Cabela used to sell. They probably still do. The right time of the year, those things are deadly. We got some walleye spinners and more tadpoles, and we got some fuzzy lures, panfish lures. And I guess that's a walleye bait. I don't really remember using that much. And we have small plastic baits, Mr. Twisters. We have 1 inch to 3 inch. Those little tube baits. Okay, flying lure. Back in the 90s, these things were all over the television if you watch any kind of fishing shows. They made it look like it was so easy to catch fish. I, like everybody else, bought them. I don't think I ever caught a fish with it. Never figured out how to use them. And here we have different types of baits. Plastic ones. There's a pretty mean tube bait right there. And another flying lure. If you like what you see, subscribe. I have other videos that are coming out with my fishing poles. I'm into gardening and tools and fixing things.